Thank you. So good morning, council members, state policymakers, and team members and members of the public. I'd like to call the December 6th meeting of the Social Equity Council to order. It is now 10:03 a.m. At this point, I will call the roll. Councilman Abercrombie.
Present.
Councilwoman Alverio. Councilman Betts.
Present.
I am here. Councilman Gaddis.
Here.
Councilwoman Gordon. Councilman Jefferson.
Good morning, present.
Councilwoman Name. Councilman Pelka. Councilwoman Shaw. See you.
Present.
Thank you. Councilman Shirley.
Here.
Councilwoman Valeries.
Here.
Councilman Walton.
Present.
Thank you. We have a quorum. This morning, the council will be asked to vote on the recommendations from Cohn-Resnick regarding 3 workforce development plans, as well as reconsidered, remanded, and lottery applications. As well, we will enter into executive session to discuss litigation. And finally, we will have a year-end presentation from Director Clay and hear from our committee chairs. Council members will note there are org chart and goals documents in the packet, but we will not be taking action on those items. Those are provided more for your information, and happy to field any questions later in the agenda. And first have a motion to approve the minutes of the November 1st Social Equity Council meeting.
So move.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. Looks like we have Ray Kissaday here today from Cohn-Resnick. Ray, thank you for being here. And if you wanted to provide any remarks regarding the workforce development plans, I will yield the floor to you.
Hello, everyone.
Good morning.
So for this meeting, we had 3 workforce development plan applications that we reviewed, 2 of which were medical marijuana dispensary facilities, and 1 was a medical marijuana producer. All 3 of them were recommended for approval.
Fantastic. Thank you. And so with that, may I have a motion to accept Cohn-Resnick's recommendation to approve Workforce Development Plan application number MMPR 00004, submitted by Theraplant LLC for meeting the criteria established by the Social Equity Council.
So move.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I have a question, Madam Chair.
Councilman
And-
Jefferson?
In approving these workforce development plans, will this put us over the required numbers so that dispensaries or retailers, I should say, could start operating in the state?
Yes, so the 3 workforce development plans that we will be voting on today, as you all know, the legislation requires 250,000 square feet of gross space. Approval of these workforce development plans will provide that gross space in order to get us closer to market open.
Great. Thank you. I just wanted clarity on that.
Sure,
Thank you.
absolutely. Any other questions? All right, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Any abstentions? Terrific. And may I have a motion to accept Cohn-Resnick's recommendation to approve Workforce Development Plan application number MMDF 00003 that was submitted by D&B Wellness LLC for meeting the criteria established by the Social Equity Council.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? Great, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. And third, may I have a motion to accept Cohn-Resnick's recommendation to approve Workforce Development Plan application number MMDF 00005 that was submitted by Thames Valley Apothecary LLC for meeting the criteria established by the Social Equity Council.
So move.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you so much. And at this time, may I have a motion to enter into executive session to discuss pending litigation?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
Great. You should have received a separate link for executive session, so I ask that you leave this room and join that one. And I thank the public for its patience. And all in favor of going into executive session?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Any abstentions? Great. Thank you for your patience. We will resume shortly. Thank you again for your patience. I will call this meeting back to order. And we call the roll. Councilman Abercrombie,
Here.
Councilman Betts. I am here. Councilman Gaddis,
Here.
Councilwoman Gordon, Councilman Jefferson,
Here.
Councilman Pelka, Councilwoman Shaw, Councilman Shirley, Councilwoman Valeries,
Here.
Councilman Walton.
Present.
Great. Let's see. Okay. Thank you again for your patience. May I have a motion to accept Cone Resnick's recommendation to approve social equity status for application number ACCE 000045 submitted by Green Meadows LLC?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Social Equity Council will issue an updated ADR to the applicant and refer them to DCP for provisional licensing. May I have a motion to accept Cone Resnick's recommendation to approve social equity status for application number ACDS 0001177 submitted by Let's Grow Hartford LLC?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Social Equity Council will issue an updated ADR to the applicant and refer them to DCP for provisional licensing. And may I have a motion to accept Cone Resnick's recommendation to approve social equity status for application number ACPP 000136 submitted by White Oak Apothecary LLC?
So moved.
I have a
Second.
second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Social Equity Council will issue updated ADR to the applicant and refer them to DCP for provisional licensing. Moving on to agenda item number 8, may I have a motion to accept Cone Resnick's recommendation to approve social equity status for application number AMHF 00002942 submitted by Chillax LLC?
So moved.
I have a second. Any discussion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, thank you. Social Equity Council will issue an updated ADR to the applicant and refer them to DCP for provisional licensing. At this point, I will turn it over to Director Clay for her report.
Thank you, Chairwoman Comer. My report was sent out to the council, and I don't know if everyone had a chance to read it, but I will go over it very briefly. Jennifer, thank you. So I did what I'd like to consider to be a sort of a year-end review and a mid-year, mid-fiscal year update on the council's progress. So I think this is going to be difficult to read because it's a presentation. Jennifer, can we make this larger in sort of a presentation format? I don't think we can, but if we could just, if we could scroll through, that would be, I think, helpful. And we're looking at a different screen now. So basically the report, we can go past this.
This is Mark, just wondering nice picture. Control L might make it full screen. It might enable better zooming in and zooming out if you're on a PC.
Thank you for that. So Control L.
Yes, that's usually what brings it to full screen mode in Adobe. I don't know if that helps.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. So I wanted to, this is, Jennifer, we can go back up to one more. Okay, thank you. So again, I just want to thank the council for all of the work that they have done throughout this year. We had a very heavy lift, and I think we all did a very good job in moving the needle to getting closer to opening the social equity portion of the cannabis market. I also want to recognize my team and their dedication and for all of the work that they have done throughout this year. So again, Social Equity Council staff, thank you very much for your contributions and all the late nights and weekends that we have committed to this work. Jennifer, next page. So again, to just restate, our mission is to promote and encourage full participation in the cannabis industry by people disproportionately harmed by cannabis prohibition enforcement and to support broad-based economic development in those communities. So these are the numbers. We have 13 council members currently. There are 6 social equity staff members. 87 applications have been approved by this council. And 23,488 social equity applications were submitted for licensure or an opportunity to participate in adult use cannabis, and 158 applications were reviewed by CONRESNIC. Some of our biggest accomplishments is the creation of the Cannabis Revolving Loan Fund. Council approved that program last week. We are in the process right now of finalizing the application and just kind of tweaking a couple of process related things. This program, this loan fund, is in partnership with the Department of Economic and Community Development. So I want to thank them for their work and their effort and the work that they will do in the future to address a huge barrier for social equity applicants and those folks participating in adult use cannabis by working with us to provide access to capital, much needed capital to the social equity applicants. And also the creation of the accelerator program. We are just beginning as actually tomorrow for social equity applicants. We're going to start with our provider, Oaksterdam University, a webinar series that will help the social equity applicants do an assessment of where they are and where they need to be over the next 14 months. This is a very in-depth 8-month program. Those participants, those social equity applicants that participate and complete this program will also have some extra incentives by way of council, where they will receive a reduction in the interest rate of the loan funds that they may be borrowing from the council's program. We also were able to recertify the DIA map, which is very important in our work going forward, especially in the areas of reinvestment. And again, in the very beginning of the year, our biggest charge was to set the criteria and vote on the first round of the social equity lottery. So our financial numbers. So in the budget fiscal year 2023, we have a 10.7 plus $1 million budget to carry out our work. Our expenditures thus far for fiscal year 23, you can see in personnel, just a little under $500,000. Other expenses, $500,000. So far we've spent just over $1 million in the first 6 months of this fiscal year. The revenues for 2022, starting in January up to November 30th, there are $40 million that have been generated from fees and licenses. In the Cannabis Regulatory Investment Fund, there is another $10.3 million collected from January to November 30th for a grand total of little over $50 million, $50.3 million. We also, we all know, have a bond authorization of $50 million, and of that we have asked and been approved for $10 million, and that's what we are using to fund the Social Equity Cannabis Revolving Loan Fund. We're positive that the loan fund is going to be successful, so we will be probably looking at February and going back to the Bond Commission to request another tranche of money to have those funds available to social equity applicants. And wishing you all a joyous holiday season with peace and cheer in the new year. Thank you, Jennifer. So
Thank you, Director. Oh, sorry.
No, I was going to say thank you very much. And if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Councilman Jefferson.
Good morning, Madam Executive Director. I have a couple of questions. I did not hear anything regarding the workforce development matter or the outreach matter in terms of specifically the website and how has that been resolved yet around outreach, and just give us an update on this workforce development piece. I'm in the dark.
So we are right now working with the Office of Workforce Strategy and with the Office of Policy and Management to post the position for the Workforce Development Coordinator. And with that, we will be moving forward to establish and to assess the workforce needs of the folks who are going to benefit from the workforce development programs that will be put in place. I don't want to put Councilwoman Valerie's on the spot, but if she wants to add anything to that sort of broad update.
Thank you, Executive Director. We are working closely with the Office of Policy and Management to push the position forward to be able to post and to do all of the related work that is required to answer all of the workforce questions. At this point in time, it is not within our control to move this position forward without moving it through the state process for approval. So we're working with OPM on that process.
Councilwoman Valerie or Madam Executive Director, I just want to be clear about something. We voted on a budget when we were supposed to in the October meeting. We did not. Folks had some concerns. We held off. Then we had a special meeting and we voted on a budget which was approved by this council. Workforce development was budgeted in 2022 at 1.6, and the projections in 23, if I'm reading the line right, was close to $5 million. So are we having a problem hiring a director? What is happening with that money? And please tell me if that money is tied into community reinvestment, because that's our next biggest challenge we're going to have to tackle. I need to understand where we're going with all of this, because I'm not hearing anything about workforce development. The folks in the DIAs have to be trained You know, the cannabis industry is booming, and our folks don't have any skills or knowledge to be a part of this booming industry. So what are we doing about that?
It's a great question. Great question, Councilman Jefferson. I will allow Councilman Pelka to make any comments that he might have, considering he is from OPM. And then I'll comment after that.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. So my understanding was that the funding for the workforce coordinator position needed to reach the budgeting code for the Office of Workforce Strategy. I just wanted to confirm that the funds are now under the Office of Workforce Strategy. And then I wanted to ask what is pending and how, you know, what's the status within OPM and how can I be of assistance?
We need to final approval from OPM and OTG to post that position. We have been working diligently on it and have not been able to move the needle.
Sounds great. I'd be happy to follow up and understand where it is in there.
Thank you. We'd appreciate your help.
Does
And to
that
your
mean that-
point, Councilman Jefferson, that all of the funds are tied up with approval from OPM. We're working on justifications for them that they have requested. And it's a slow process, unfortunately.
Will the regional workforce boards across the state be included in this plan of action to train individuals in the DIA, given some of the complexities that were discussed early on? Where are we with that?
Yeah, our goal is to leverage the network that we've created through the $70 million investment in Career Connect funds across the state. We've built out a pretty significant platform to be able to attract people into these positions and provide all of the support services necessary to get them through the training process. However, those dollars have been set up with federal funds, which we are not allowed to utilize any federal dollars. The workforce boards are financially supported through federal dollars. So we have to be very careful in how we utilize the funds that we have to make sure that we're not mixing any resources that are funded by federal dollars versus state dollars. This is something that we're having some preliminary discussions with the workforce boards, and they are definitely central to the discussion and the conversation. We will need to do a competitive call for proposals, which the boards will be available to make those proposals.
Thank you. And my final question through you, Madam Chair. The social equity and innovation account that you discussed in your presentation, Madam Executive Director. So if we're talking about 40 million, is that the number that you put on the screen? Based on the licensing fees and that were contributed to that fund, the $40 million?
Yes.
Okay, so does that fund belong exclusively to us, or is that fund being shared across the state with various agencies?
I would ask Council Member Pelka if he could answer that. Those funds go to OPM. They don't come directly to the Social Equity Council.
I mean, the reason why I'm asking it before we hear from Council Member Pelka is because we need to know when we start discussing community reinvestment, what we have at our disposal, what limits we have in terms of disbursement. That's why I'm posing the question. Mr. Pelka, if you can.
Through the chair, so when the SEC approved the requested budget from the Social Equity Council, it was submitted to OPM and is undergoing budget review. So what OPM received is essentially an Excel spreadsheet containing the proposed reinvestment, proposed workforce development, and all the other lines in the budget, plus the supporting cells that explain. And soon after receiving that budget submission, OPM, as part of the budget development process, sought input from Social Equity Council staff and others on the proposals to learn more and have questions answered, to kind of justify and explain as the the proposals, the amounts that were included in the budget proposal. Those discussions are ongoing with SEC staff. And I think as we noted, when the budget was approved, that would mark the beginning of the budget development process that would carry forward through the legislative process. So that budget is ongoing, and a lot of the questions Councilmember Jefferson have asked, similar ones have been raised by OPM staff in trying to understand the vision for the Social Equity Council proposed budget.
Well, I don't know. I thought it was a baseline that we voted on. I mean, I don't know how we could predetermine how much money we're going to need for community reinvestment. Maybe someone can explain. Maybe I missed something there. I just don't know how you put a cap on that. And what was the baseline that was used for us to come up with that number? Do you have any idea, Madam Executive Director, through Madam Chair?
So we came up with kind of estimates. I mean, we have very limited information at this point on the workforce development needs of the companies and the communities, primarily the communities, the folks in the DIA. And for the reinvestment piece, we just kind of estimated what we thought we could accomplish. So we had two different line items, as you may recall. And because we are still uncertain, we're still waiting for some information on our reinvestment through the study that the University of Connecticut is doing. And we still have some work to do in the workforce area to determine. We just sort of estimated what we could use, and then we decided, or the council decided, it would combine those two line items because workforce development is a part of reinvestment. And if at one point or another, the council needs to spend more money in the workforce development area, it would not be limited. And if we needed to spend more work in the reinvestment area, it would not be limited. So we combine those two line items to come up with a dollar figure that we could have some flexibility with, depending on the need and kind of what kicks off first. If the workforce piece kicks off first, we have plenty of money for workforce development. If the reinvestment piece, gains momentum, we have plenty of money there.
So the budget reflects the actual numbers. Are we safe in keeping that money, or can we potentially lose the money?
I don't know if we can lose the money. The question, I think, is how quickly will we be able to spend the money?
Thank you.
Councilman Jefferson, just to add to that, as Councilman Pelham mentioned, there is ongoing conversations within the Office of Policy and Management. They have had several questions, particularly to your point around how those numbers were arrived at. And then there's also a question of timing. So to your question about whether we will lose that money, there may be reductions in some line items based on the timeline, and then based on information provided in terms of what those numbers actually look like.
Thank you for the clarification, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Councilwoman Valeries.
Yes, I just have one additional question regarding the process for clarity on my behalf and maybe others on the council. Does our budget have to go through the legislative process and be approved by legislation on top of OPM approval? So these funds would not be accessible then, at least until the budget is passed in June or July.
This is for this would be for FY 24 and 25, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I mean,
that's right. I think it would be included. Pardon me, Madam Chair, they would be, if the Social Equity Council budget would be included in the proposed budget to the General Assembly, which would then review and make the final decision prior to the vote. So in terms of current appropriations that could be used, if those funds have been appropriated under fiscal 2023, they would be accessible. But for the proposed budget, those are for the following biennium. Madam Chair, I'm sorry, I thought that was directed toward me, but I'm sure you had probably a much clearer.
No. Thank you. Who better than the expert to answer the question? Any additional questions, comments? All righty. Thank you, Director Clay.
Thank you.
We now turn to our committee reports. My understanding was that only the governance and policy committees have reports to share. Governance Chair name is not with us today, so I will turn it over to Chairman Shirley. And I also, maybe prior to that, Councilwoman Gordon, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to, there's a little bit of an update from outreach.
Okay, so if I can go
Yeah,
to,
just wanted to add that to the list that we want to, yeah, to give an update as
thank
well.
you. Okay, Chairman Shirley, floor is yours, and then I will come back to Chairwoman Gordon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We met, but we did not have a quorum, so we didn't vote on any policies to bring before the council. What we did discuss would be the issues that would likely come through policy, some of which you've already discussed today. Budget issues, the issue of how what the structure of the reinvestment committee would look like, how we would go through, how we would do that. But these were general discussion points, and because we did not have a quorum, we did not vote on anything.
Thank you, Chairman Shirley. Chairwoman Gordon.
Good morning, everyone. So the outreach committee met and we received a presentation from the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services on education around addiction, or not addiction. We talked a lot about the outreach strategy to prevention from youth using cannabis, and the goal was to have that presentation at the committee at the SEC council meeting today. However, there was a conflict, so that was not possible. But hopefully in January, we will be getting a presentation from them. So the outreach committee is essentially, we're working with DEMIS and giving our feedback as much as we can, because I think these two things need to go hand in hand. There's the outreach from the SEC about the market and the distribution of cannabis, and also the prevention. We want to figure out how we can ensure that our messages are aligned and we're communicating in the same way. So just a quick update there, and we'll hope to have something to the council by January.
Thank you so much, Chairwoman Gordon. And just for clarity for the council members, the statute sort of puts the responsibility for education to the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, but to Chairwoman Gordon's point, ensuring alignment of messaging is key. Are there any other committee chair reports that I was not made aware of? Okay, hearing none. So we have come to the end of our agenda and to the last meeting of this council for the year. You know, the past 12 months have been challenging, but I think also promising in many ways. You know, we've worked together to provide equity in the cannabis sector with a legislation that frankly has not always lent itself to that. To the teams, DCP, DCD, Attorney General, OPM, Office of Workforce Strategies, and Office of the Governor, I'm grateful for your support and your insight, and wisdom, and agility in this effort. To the SEC team, I thank you for putting policy into practice, for showing up each day and getting us to this point. I'm sure I speak for the council when I say that your commitment is appreciated and valued. To the community, both those who seek to enter this market and those conscientious observers, know that we see you. You know, we know you want this initiative to deliver on its promise, and we are doing everything within our power, and we look forward to your partnership. And last but not least, to my council colleagues, I am so grateful for the ways in which you push us as a collective to optimize our service to communities that have been most harmed by the war on drugs, and how you've given your time and your talent to this really important endeavor. Next month begins a new year, and the launch of this market is on the horizon. We will support social equity applicants through the loan and accelerator programs, continue planning to support the development of a strong workforce, and begin conversations to crystallize those plans for reinvestment in disproportionately impacted areas. And I hope that you share my belief that members of those communities will be strengthened through our efforts. Last but not least, I want to wish everyone a holiday season that's filled with compassion and hope and love. Is there anything for the good of the order?
Move to adjourn.
Thank you,
Second.
Councilman Gaddis. Second. Okay, all in
Happy
favor?
holidays.
Bye.
Take good
Happy
care,
holidays,
everyone.
everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Madam Chair.
Thank you.